everybody. I'm Laura Trump coming to you from my home in New York. The American people know injustice when they see it, and they demand justice for those who perpetrated a hoax against Donald Trump. Joining me is America's mayor and the host of the Common Sense podcast, Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, we are so excited to get you on the show. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, you're a perfect person to talk to on this because from the very beginning, you have been one of the folks out there all along who has said when it comes to Russia, when it comes to Russian collusion, when it comes to Michael Flynn, when it comes to all that the Democrats have tried to do to Donald Trump and anyone who is seemingly his ally, it's all been a hoax. There's new proof now, Rudy, that this was for sure, without a doubt, a witch hunt all along from the very beginning against President Trump. So how high does this scandal go? What do we know now, and just how rotten is this thing?
Well, I think now we can appropriately call this OBAMAGATE, because the big question left is, what did Obama know? And
right.
We know it, much like Watergate. And I think you're justified in calling it that because several of the co-conspirators, Strzok, Page, said in text that POTUS wanted to know all about it.
Right.
So we have two of the principal co-conspirators saying that the boss wanted to be briefed. Now, they could be telling the truth, they could be lying, but it has to be investigated. So Obama becomes now the major question. Did he know from the beginning that they had concocted this completely false Russian collusion story? And did he know about the unmasking?
Right.
Because they were in his office on January 5th. All the unmaskers were basically in his office on January 5th. It's hard to believe they didn't talk about it.
Right.
And the fact is, it is very, very unusual not to have unmasking, but to have so many people do it. I mean, 7 people?
Yeah.
It's like they were in a frenzy to unmask Flynn. And they wanted to unmask him because they wanted to get him out of the way because they had a plan to oust the president of the United States. They knew what they were going to do.
Yeah.
They were going to try to frame President Trump, and they wanted Flynn out of the way because Flynn they didn't trust, and they thought he would know their tactics. They were hoping the new administration couldn't conceive that anybody would actually try to overthrow the government. And all of that was done to clear a path so that Strzok and Page and Comey and Brennan, Clapper, all the people you see. The real question is, who did the leaking? Because that's the first crime.
Mm-hmm. The whole thing is really, I think, Rudy,
Sure.
Unbelievable to most people in this country. To think that maybe their vote, didn't matter, that we had colluded with a foreign entity. It was so absurd. And what it cost this country in the form of the Mueller investigation, I mean, millions and millions of taxpayer dollars that we will never get back. 2 years it took to complete that. This is something I think that should really anger every single American citizen. But do you think, Rudy, will we ever really get justice? What would it take to even deliver justice to the American people here?
Well, I think it's absolutely necessary that we get justice, because beyond just us who were hurt very, very badly, the president, his family, people around him, people in the White House, my goodness, I can't tell you the stories I was told when I was representing the president in this investigation about how they basically tortured the kids in the White House. I mean,
Yep.
I've never seen prosecutors operate like this. You'd think they were investigating bin Laden, arresting people at 4 o'clock in the morning, breaking into lawyers' offices, putting Manafort in solitary confinement for 7 months, and taking him out to try to get him to lie. It's much worse than the American people realize. You have to be in the middle of it to realize. And I didn't believe when I started. I thought the whole thing about a deep state was a little bit exaggerated. It's now underestimated.
Right.
And I can tell you that on absolute authority. I've got all the files. And actually what happened is they tried to frame him for colluding with Russia. They were colluding with Russia and Ukraine.
Yes.
They were doing it. They're the ones who paid money for dirt on Donald Trump. They're the ones who got Ukrainian officials to go dig up dirt on the campaign. This will turn out to be the worst scandal in our history.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And I think a lot of people are now seeing why what you're saying is 100% accurate. The interesting thing here is we now have the supposed Democrat nominee for president, Joe Biden, who is now wrapped up in this scandal as well, Rudy. It's very interesting to watch all this play out. Now, I understand that Joe Biden's memory is going. He half the time doesn't know where he is, for what position he's running anymore. He went on television, said he had no knowledge of any of this going on, and then we find out like 24 hours later, he actually did. So considering Joe Biden's involvement in this scandal and his record, by the way, on the economy and China, so many other things on which he has been wrong throughout his entire career as a politician for decades now. Why should the American people trust him? Why should they vote for him?
I don't trust him at all. I mean, Joe Biden's a complete fraud. I mean, I've gotten in a lot of trouble because I'm the one who dug up the information on Joe Biden in an effort to defend the president, not to get Joe Biden. Joe Biden's been taking money for 30 years. Joe Biden plagiarized in law school.
Yes.
He was a liar in law school. He was a liar as a senator. His brothers have been making money off his office since 1980. They sold out in Iraq, and then they sold out in the Ukraine so that the son could get a job. It's $1 billion investment in a ridiculous fund by China. China's his partner. The vice president is negotiating with China, and his son is a partner with the Bank of China, which is owned by China. And that's not a conflict? Imagine if that happened in our administration.
Oh, my God. Could you imagine for a second?
Capital punishment.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Double standard is, I think the double standard is dividing the American people. I think they feel that there's two different standards of justice. Democrats get away with it. Republicans, it gets invented or exaggerated. And I think I can prove that, Laura. I don't think I'm just saying that off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, it's playing out, I think, every single day for the American people to see. And look, we really have a lot of ground to cover between now and Election Day on November 3rd. So I don't think it's going to be an easy road for Joe Biden. I think every single day, the more that comes out, the more we find out his involvement in this scandal, the information we find out about his cozy relationship with China. Every day he does something to push himself farther to the left, like having Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez be his climate change advisor, implementing the Green New Deal, open borders, free health care for illegal aliens in this country. It's not looking too good for Joe Biden, but I think the ultimate justice, Rudy, would be for the American people all together to come out on November 3rd and overwhelmingly re-elect Donald Trump to 4 more years. I couldn't think of a better way to give it back to these people for everything that they've tried to do to the president and to this entire country than for every single person to come out and vote for Donald Trump.
You know, I think the thing a major victory would do also, it would require the Democratic Party to reform.
Wow.
They would have to clean up. And look, we need 2 political parties in this country that are honest, that are working for the public good. And they stopped doing that a long time ago.
That's right.
They stopped doing it, oh, God, maybe 10 years ago. I mean, they're big phonies on immigration reform. The president offered them everything they wanted on immigration reform. It reminds me of Arafat. When they offered him everything he wanted, he didn't take it. They offered him everything that they wanted, and they turned him down because they wanted an issue. They don't want a solution.
That's right.
They are hack politicians who have become so bad they can't think of the public good anymore. Imagine while this coronavirus was developing and we didn't know about it, they were trying to impeach him on that ridiculous Ukraine conversation, which the Ukrainian president said was perfectly normal. Every foreign official that I talk to, even people who are antagonistic to us, think we're crazy for having made a big deal out of that. And
well, a lot of Americans think it's crazy too. And by the way, to your point, the day that Nancy Pelosi, you remember, Mr. Mayor, the day that Nancy Pelosi was handing out her impeachment pens was the same day that Donald Trump stopped travel coming from China to the United States. So fortunately, instead of playing politics, our president was actually looking out for the health and safety of the American people. But we know all along that Democrats are only out there playing politics, doing what is advantageous for them politically. They don't really ultimately care about what happens to American citizens. Fortunately, we have a president who does. We need every single American to get out there, vote for Donald Trump for 4 more years. Mr. Mayor, I want to say thank you for everything that you have done for the president. Thank you for everything you do for this country. You're a patriot, and we love how hard you fight every day for the country. And thank you so much for joining me here today.
Well, you know how amazed I am at the job that he's done, and it goes beyond being his friend. He's done a much better job than I thought he would do, and I thought he'd do it and under great pressure. I don't understand. Right. There are times in which I can't understand how he accomplished so much with the way they've gone after him. It's disgraceful. It's really remarkable what this man has accomplished in a short period of time and against this tremendous opposition. I've never seen it like this, but he thrives on it. Wow, thank God we have him.
Thank God we do. All right, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Giuliani, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. The American people demand fairness and justice, and that's exactly what they'll get with 4 more years of Donald Trump. That's the real news for today. If you'd like to get involved with Team Trump, go to DonaldJTrump.com or download the official Trump 2020 app from the App Store on your iPhone or from the Google Play Store on Android. I'm Laura Trump, coming to you from my home in New York. Thanks for joining us, everybody.